Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be painting a serene lake landscape. So let's do it. Okay, so to start, I'm just going to go through my materials. I have my Arches cold pressed watercolor paper taped down with some cheap painter's tape from the dollar store. My Winsor Newton professional watercolors in my palette. I have this oval mop brush. You don't need this, you can just use a big brush, but I just thought I'd use this today. It's also by Princeton, it's Princeton Select. And then I have my Princeton snap brushes in a size 12 and 6 round, and water and paper towel, and we're ready to go. So I've been feeling lately, I just need to paint something calming and serene, and it's summer, so I thought maybe I'd paint like a little lake landscape. Don't really have a plan, don't have a reference photo, just gonna kind of go with it and then talk myself through the process. We'll see how it goes. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wet my big oval mop brush. You can just wet up your biggest brush that you have. I'm gonna take just a light wash of some cobalt blue, and I'm just going to start with the nice blue sky. And we're gonna do a light wash because we're gonna have some trees in the background and I don't want the blue to totally blend with the trees. So there's our light wash for that. And then I'm just gonna grab more cobalt blue and I'm just gonna make it a little bit brighter at the top. Maybe even a little bit of cerulean blue. I want a nice light blue sky. Just slowly moving it down, a little bit darker or brighter as it's closer to the top, like that. And just washing off my brush, drying it, and just blending it down. Then I'm going to take my size 12 brush, wash it with just clean water, and I'm going to drop some clean water to make some sort of cloud formations. And what the water does is it pushes the paint away, so you get kind of like a little white area. So just dropping some of that clean water to make some clouds. That's just a little trick to do clouds, okay? Okay, and then we're gonna have some trees in the background, and then we're gonna have kind of trees on, I think, like a little island here, and then the water here. So I want some trees in the far background, so I think I want them kind of blurry or faded, so I'm going to do this while this is wet. I'm actually going to take my smaller brush, my size 6 brush, just so I don't pick up too much color and water, so it doesn't bleed too much, but I'm just going to do some faded trees in the background just by doing some horizontal lines and then some vertical lines and let it kind of bleed. Okay? Like that. You don't really have to do too many tree like shapes. It's just kind of a blurry tree background. And I'm just starting off with the lightest green I have, just using some sap green. You can do some taller ones if you like. However you want to do this. Really just play around. Might grab a little bit of yellow, like there's kind of a bit of sun reflecting on the tops of these trees. And actually looking at my clouds, I'm just gonna add a bit more clean water just to push a bit more paint. Just a little bit more, like that. I'm gonna grab some more green, make it a little bit darker. And it doesn't really have to look like trees because remember they're faded. They're kind of, not faded, they're like blurry. They're unfocused in the background. And we'll do some more focused ones in the foreground. So I'm just adding some green and then I'm gonna add some darker green. So I have this perline green. So I'm just doing vertical lines and then horizontal kind of scribbles. And because your paper is wet, it should be nice and kind of unfocused. I'm doing all of this on a wet background, okay? I'm gonna try and leave a little lighter here because I'm gonna do some, a darker island in the front like I was talking about. And I think what I'm actually going to do is just grab some darker green here and just go across. Actually, maybe not so much in the middle, more to the sides. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take my mop brush and I'm going to wet up the bottom here where the lake is going to be. And I'm going to just meet it with that kind of the shoreline for where those trees are, so you can get a nice kind of bleed. I'm actually going to dry up the center a bit where I want this little island to be. Okay. And then I'm going to take some turquoise for the blue. I want it a different color than the sky. And I'm just going to add that in there. Kind of trying to avoid that middle part. And again, a bit more brighter as you get closer to the foreground. You can even add a little bit of green in there too. Like that. Then I'm going to take, actually I'm just gonna, with my clean brush, just have it blending out there. Okay. Then I'm going to take my clean size 6, dip it in the water, and I'm just going to, again, just add some water. And it almost kind of looks like waves. Again, it's pushing that paint, so you have these little white dots, like kind of like a little waves in the water. And you can add a bit more darker color if you want. Like that, just kind of going back and forth. Again, washing off my brush, adding some more just plain water. Like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna wait for it to completely dry and we'll do this little island piece. Okay, so now that it's dry, we can start doing the island. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with some trees in the middle here. I'm just grabbing my sap green and I'm gonna just make it a little light. And I'm gonna do some trees here, some nice tall trees with my size 6 brush, starting with a vertical line and then just doing some little branches that are poking, kind of going upwards, and then they're slowly gonna start pointing down. Okay, like that. And I actually think I wanna make it a bit more rustic-y looking, so I'm just gonna grab some brown and add it to my green, like that. And we're just gonna keep doing some more brush strokes. Might even grab a little bit of yellow, pop it in there. Oh my gosh, my dog. Like that. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to this mixture. Do another tree here. And the way to make these look a bit more realistic is that those little branches pointing kind of towards the top first, and then they start to move down. Okay, so I have this like yellowish brown that I'm using right now. Then I'll add a bit more green, pop it in there. Like that. And we will add some darker bits in there too. So you can add like a pearline green. If you don't have that, hooker's green works well. You can add it with a bit, or mix it with a bit of purple. And I'm actually just going to make it a little bit darker on one side. Maybe like the sun is kind of coming this way. that. Maybe I'll do another couple trees here, not too many. Maybe we'll sharpen up that background a bit too. Okay, just little dabs. Don't worry too much about it. Maybe I'll do another one here. Always start off with a lighter color and then work your way darker with watercolor. It's just easier because you can't really put light color over top of dark color because it's a transparent medium, just in case you didn't know that. Okay, grab a bit more color. A bit more brown. Just dabbing it. I'm gonna make it darker on the one side. Do little brush strokes if you want for some of those little tree branches and the pine needles. Very thin brush strokes. Okay, we can even do a bit more after too. Then I'm going to take my perling green and a bit of brown. I'm just going to kind of create the ground of this island and wash off my brush. Then I'm just going to kind of blend it out a bit. Maybe a bit more forward. Okay. Then I'm going to blend it into the water. So I'm going to wet up the whole water again. And if you noticed, while it dried, it got a little bit lighter too. So make sure you have clean water and you can just gently touch that island a bit so it bleeds into the water. I'm going to grab some of my turquoise again, make it a bit darker. A bit of green with it. Okay. Like that. Grab a little bit of just water. Again, doing those little wave bits, smaller towards the background. And then they can be a little bit further apart and longer, closer to the front. I think I'm even going to take some of that green and I'm going to do some reflections in the water. So just kind of mirroring what you see there, just very rough little kind of lines coming down, horizontal lines. Okay, it doesn't have to be too crazy. Remember, this is not realistic. We're just kind of giving some cottagey lake vibes. A little bit further down. Like that. And then, actually I want this water up here a little bit higher. So it really looks like this island is kind of in the foreground. Like that. And then you can start doing a bit more detail on the back trees here too if you want. So lines, vertical lines. And you can just kind of sharpen up those trees a bit and have it bleed into the water a little bit more. Starting off with my sap green, just really rough. Don't worry too much about the shapes. Really rough shapes. Add a little bit of yellow in the background. Some of those trees. And then grab a little bit of darker green. Kind of right at the water line so it bleeds a little bit. And I'm really just kind of dabbing. I'm not making anything too realistic. just kind of, I'll sharpen up these trees a bit more in the foreground, but these ones in the back I'm not too worried about. Man, I wish I had a cottage. I see everyone's Instagram posts of being at the lake. I'm a little jealous, not gonna lie. Don't have a cottage. If you have a cottage and want to be my friend, that's cool too. I'll accept. Hopefully one day we'll get there where we can get one. That'd be awesome. Goals. Okay, really just messy little lines, a little bit of yellow, and then a little bit of darker green closer to that shoreline. It's so rough, so rough. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of water and just blend it out a bit. Like that. A little bit of the watercolor. Starting to dry a bit. Just blending it out. Just taking some clean water and blending it out. Blending it out. I can speak, I promise. Just not the best today. Okay. Okie dokie. So there we go. Now I'm just going to take some more green and I'm just going to sharpen up some branches on these trees in the front. So just a little bit more detail. So just using the tip of my brush, I'm just doing some little flicks for some branches. Okay. And try not to make it like symmetrical or too perfect looking, because then it starts to look a bit less realistic, if that makes sense. You know, trees aren't perfect. Some sides are fuller than others. Grab a bit more green, a bit of brown to do the island part here. Like that. And if you want to darken up some of those ripples in the water from the reflection, you can if it's already dry. Just do a light wash so it's not too dark. Like that. Okay. And then for these clouds, I'm just going to add a little bit of gray just to divine them a bit. So I'm watering my Payne's gray down. And then I'm just gonna go underneath, even lighter than that, underneath, and create some shadow of where those white spots were, just to sharpen them up just a little. Adding water, blending it out a bit more. That. And I feel like my trees are a little too dark, to be honest. So what I think I might do is grab some white ink. So I have some white ink here. Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. If you have a white gel pen, that would work, white gouache, whatever. Just taking a little bit. And I'm just gonna do some light on some of these branches, just on the one side. For a little bit of highlight. Maybe just some rocks or something. Nothing too crazy, just a little bit. And even if you wanted to, you could add some white streaks in the water. I think those ones are a bit too bright. Oops. And actually even maybe a little bit of white around the island. Oops. Still a little wet, just to add like a water line. Okay, and remember those little ripples in the water are closer together as you get further away. So these ones would be closer together and smaller. And then as you get more to the foreground, they get longer and bigger and more like spaced apart. Like that. Just gonna try and add a bit more. Like that, and you can even add some white into your clouds too if you want, to make them look a little bit more fluffy. Like that. That, and I think that's pretty good. And if you ever wanted to like just add a little bird in the background, you can take a little bit of gray or black or whatever, like the tiniest bit. Just do kind of like an almost like a really thin M shape, like that. And there you go. There is your lake view. And now you get to do the fun part, taking off the tape. And there you go. There is your really nice, serene kind of cottage lake view. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.